So in this video we're going to be looking at the Sacred Runebook. It is probably one of the most useful items you can get as a new player. What it's going to allow you to do is to basically port around to places you've already been with runes where you've chosen specific locations. Normally you would need pretty high magery in order to mark runes. You need a spell book, and you need rags to do this. But with the Sacred Runebook, you don't need any of that. You just need the book itself plus gold. So these can be found on player vendors. Now the amount of charges that it takes to mark and gate depends, vary on the quality of the book. So the lowest you can get for to mark on these is 2 charges. So ideally you're going to want to look for a Sacred Runebook that has 2 charges. However, the ones that are higher charges are a lot cheaper. So that being said, you want to open this up and you'll notice that the Sacred charges currently says 0. So what you need to do is you're just going to add gold. You're going to take a pile of gold, you're going to drag it on top of the book and let go. So now that's added 12 charges to the book. So now if we want to mark a location, we just want to right click this book, click mark rune, and then click on a rune, just like that. What it's going to do is going to mark this exact location. So now we can drag that and put it into the book. So where do you get runes? You can get blank runes, generally come from a mage shop, but also sometimes player vendors will have them. They can be crafted, and the player vendors will usually be a little bit cheaper than the mage shop books. But for ease, just go to a mage shop. It's not too expensive to do this. You're looking at probably around 3,000 gold for the book, and the runes themselves are about, I think, 200 gold from the actual, I believe it's scribes that sell them, but it might be mages. Yeah, they are. So 150 gold for a blank recall rune. So, now that you have that particular blank recall art, now that you have that book marked like that, what you can do is you can double click the book, you can click on that, and you want to click a recall charge. And it'll take 1 charge and it's going to recall you to that spot. You'll notice that the book actually has a bonus chance to recall from charges. So in Shards of Britannia with 0 magery, you're going to fail a lot if you use one of these regular rune books trying to recall. So the Sacred Runebook gives you quite a big bonus chance to recall even with 0 magery. They're quite useful in that sense. And you also don't need recall scrolls. So with that being said, now that you have that location, you can recall back to that spot. And you can go start looking for places that you want to remember. So for example, if we wanted to, we'll go to the brick graveyard, just up here. And the idea here being is, like, you'll notice it takes a decent amount of time to actually get to this spot. And the further away you go, the harder places to find. You're going to notice that it's actually taking a lot of time. So having a couple of these blank runes as well as the Sacred Runebook is going to save you a lot of time. So you can right click mark again, and it's going to mark a spot right there. So now you have brick graveyard. And so now you can recall between Britannia and the brick graveyard. So now, at the time of this video, there is a player vendor shop, it's actually mine, right here, that has rune books in them already. And so the idea here is you can take a look at these rune books and decide if you want to go to a place to farm. There's 2 books in right now. There's hunting spots and there's actual dungeons. They're both ranked by difficulty as well. So you can kind of see here Arctic Overlords being kind of difficult, whereas Brit Swamp is not as difficult, it's only a 2. There's only one that's a 1, it's Brit Sewers. It's very easy. So even the newest players in the game can probably handle this right away. It doesn't have much loot and honestly is not very fun. So I would suggest picking a 2 to start off with. And once you move up, you can start moving to those 3s. But if you want to try out a dungeon as well, all of these dungeons will take you outside to start. And you can kind of see here the U Crypts is the easiest. And then it kind of has Ron, Deceit, and Despise. All of these here are kind of ranked as most difficulties are the easiest to the most difficult. So say you want to start as a new player as a wrong, you can go to this book. Sometimes it'll have sacred charges, sometimes it won't. If it doesn't have any, you might need to drop some onto it. But you can just click sacred, or click that right there, the recall charge, and it'll take you to Dungeon Wrong. All of them are outside, so you don't need to worry about being ported into mobs. You can run into this dungeon here, or what you can actually do is say you don't want to have to come back to that shop every single time. You can just mark it yourself again. So click mark rune, Now you have COVID, or actually it's not named that, so you just need to double click it, double left click it, and you can name that wrong there. So now you have wrong in your Sacred Runebook. So now you can go into wrong. If you want to see what wrong has in it, you can take a look at my video on the actual dungeon wrong itself. But in this video, we're just going over the Sacred Runebook. So now that you're done with the dungeon, you can always go back to town, click a Sacred Charge, and now you're back at the bank. It's an incredibly useful thing for all players, but as a new player, it's probably one of the first things you want to get in terms of quality of life and making your experience a lot better.